Hello everyone. Welcome to today's Tulu Read Aloud session. Today we are going to be reading the book called Mister Seahorse by Eric Carle. This is a lovely story about a seahorse whose wife has laid some eggs and he's got the responsibility of taking care of those eggs. Let's see who all he meets along his way while he's taking care of the eggs. Mister Seahorse. Mr. and Mrs. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea. Mrs. Seahorse began to wiggle and twist, this way and that. "It's time for me to lay my eggs," she said. "Can I help?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Oh yes, thank you," said Mrs. Seahorse, and she laid her eggs into a pouch on Mr. Seahorse's belly. "I'll take good care of our eggs," said Mr. Seahorse. "I promise." As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a group of trumpet fish hidden in a patch of reeds. Look at this. It's a patch of reeds. And these are trumpet fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Stickleback?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Delighted," replied Mr. Stickleback. "I've just built a nest and right away Mrs. Stickleback laid her eggs in it. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "Keep up the good work," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed by a lionfish hidden behind a coral reef. And look at that. These are the coral reefs. And that's a lionfish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Tilapia?" asked Mr. Seahorse. Mr. Tilapia couldn't answer. His mouth was full of eggs. I know," said Mr. Seahorse. "Mrs. Tilapia has laid her eggs. Now you're taking good care of them until they hatch." Mr. Tilapia nodded his head. "You must be very happy," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. And that's Mr. Tilapia. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a pair of leaf fish hidden among the seaweed. Here are the seaweeds. And this is a pair of leaf fish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Curtis?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Perfectly fine," replied Mr. Curtis. "Mrs. Curtis has laid her eggs and I have stuck them on my head. Here they are. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." "You're doing a good job," said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. As Mr. Seahorse drifted gently through the sea, he passed right by a stonefish hidden behind a rock. And here is the rock. And this is the stonefish. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. "How are you, Mr. Pipe?" asked Mr. Seahorse. "Couldn't be better," replied Mr. Pipe. "Mrs. Pipe has laid her eggs along my belly. Now I'm taking good care of them until they hatch." You should feel proud of yourself, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. And that's Mr. Pipe here, and there are his eggs. But before long, Mr. Seahorse met another fish. How are you, Mr. Bullhead? Asked Mr. Seahorse. Tip-top, replied Mr. Bullhead. Mrs. Bullhead laid her eggs. The eggs hatched. Now I'm babysitting. And here are the many bullheads, baby bullheads. There's a whole shoal of them. You're doing a great job, said Mr. Seahorse, and swam on his way. The time had come for the seahorse babies to be born. Mr. Seahorse wiggled and twisted, this way and that way. At last, the babies tumbled out of Mr. Seahorse's pouch and swam away. Look at all of them tumbling out of his pouch. One baby turned around and tried to get back into the pouch. Oh no, said Mr. Seahorse. I do love you, but now you're ready to be on your own. The end. Thank you everyone for joining me in today's session. Hope you had a good time and enjoyed the story. We'll be back again tomorrow, same time, with yet another story. Thank you. Bye.